Hi and welcome to the NBA show. My name is Morten Jensen and today we'll go into Russell Westbrook, Stephen Curry, Bradley Beal and Zion Williamson on this edition of the Monday News Dump. So stay tuned. Let's open up with Russell Westbrook, who tied Oscar Robertson for the all-time record in triple-doubles with 181. And yes, I realize right at the top that Russell Westbrook is a volatile subject, especially when it comes to triple-doubles, because as people will mention, are those triple-doubles something that attributes to winning? Right now, a stat is moving around the internet basically suggesting that he wins 75% of the games in which he records a triple-double, so I guess the answer is yes, but I still recognize that it is somewhat of an arbitrary number overall because there are so many components that otherwise plays in. That said, the one thing that is indisputable, and that's something that comes from Russ's own mouth here, is that it's not easy getting those triple doubles. He recently came out and said, do you think what I'm doing is easy? And no. I think at this point we all have to acknowledge, even if we are some of the most anti-Russell Westbrook people alive, that what he is doing is extremely impressive. In the month of May, even though it's only been 5 games, he's averaging 26.2 points per game, 16.4 assists, and 15.8 rebounds. Yes, those numbers are real. Like, look at the tweet I did, right? Look, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. Those type of numbers are incomparable. So whatever you think of Russell Westbrook, be that he has a bad shot selection, which yes, I believe very heavily so, or his competitive spirit, or his general preference in terms of getting triple doubles over wins, wherever you land, I think it's important that we just take a second, just a brief moment, to acknowledge that what he is doing from a statistical perspective is absolutely insane. We have never seen this type of statistical dominance ever before. Will we see it again? I don't know, but what I do know is that when a 6'3" point guard is grabbing essentially 16 rebounds per game just over a 5-game stretch, then we have to take notice. That is mind-blowingly awesome. That is something that is extremely difficult to comprehend. What we're looking at here is a guy who is completely flipping his own narrative, especially because the Washington Wizards have been one of the best teams since April 1st. Right now, his statistical accomplishments are actually leading to wins, and yes, I realize, of course, that Bradley Beal's presence is also helping that ship along. Of course, when you are second in the league in scoring, and we'll get back to that later on in this video, that has a definite chance of helping your odds of getting better. So I'm not ignoring Bradley Beal's presence here, but it would just be foolish to look at Russell Westbrook and go, well, he doesn't have an effect on the ball game, considering he's essentially averaging 26, 16, and 16 this month. So I think it's time we just take a moment and appreciate what he is doing. It's incomparable to any other player in the history of the NBA. Yes, Oscar himself. So Russell Westbrook right now on the year is averaging over 11 rebounds and 11 assists. And again, I have to remind you, this is a 6'3" point guard. Is he chasing rebounds? Yes, absolutely. That's without a shadow of a doubt. But you know what? That's still difficult to accomplish. 11 rebounds per game for a 6'3" guard. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you chase it all night long. That is not an easy feat. And I think it's time we show him the level of respect and acknowledgement that what he is doing from a statistical perspective is not easy. And for people to suggest otherwise is asinine. Moving on, it's time to talk about Zion Williamson. Williamson is out indefinitely with a fractured finger, and a part of that, according to General Manager David Griffin, is because he is not getting protected enough by the refs. And when I say not protective enough, what I mean is not to insinuate that Zion deserves preferential treatment. What I'm saying here is that Griffin is making the argument that he's just not being reffed fairly. Because of his size, he is being hit at a much higher and harsher rate, and because of that, he is getting injured. Let's look at the quote. Quite frankly, he's injured now because of the open season there's been on Zion Williamson in the paint. He's been absolutely mauled in the paint on a regular basis, to the point that other players have said to him, "I'm going to keep doing this to you because they don't call it." There's more violence encouraged in the paint against Zion Williamson than any player I've seen since Shaq. It was egregious and horrific then, and the same is true now. Griffin is right. Look, as an outside observer, it is absolutely true. Zion Williamson is getting hit at a much higher rate than normal players, and his size is actually not helping him in this case. The rest are simply trying to argue, well, because of his size, you should be able to overcome that and blah, blah, blah. That's not how the game works, I'm afraid. If you hit someone across the hand or the face or the chest, regardless of your size, it's a foul. And it's something that we need to talk about. Now, Griffin brought up Shaquille O'Neal, and I think that's a fantastic comparison. In his prime, Shaq probably should have averaged around 18 free throw attempts per game, if not more, because he was absolutely mauled every single time down the court. Remember, this is a guy who is standing 7'1", weighing in around 325 pounds. Because of that raw size and strength, refs had this inclination of basically saying, well, you're so big, you can just overcome whatever the defense is throwing at you. To a certain extent, he could, but that doesn't change the fact that when he got hit across the head or he got clawed at or whatever, that was still a foul that was not called. Refs just said, well, if you made the basket, we don't really need to slow down the game. That's a wrong mindset, and now we're looking at Zion being the new Shaq in that way. He's not getting the calls that he should. That's a problem. It's time for the NBA to take a look at this situation and actually determine how to call certain players. I'm not saying that Zion Williamson should get preferential treatment. I'm saying he should get a fair whistle. That's all I'm asking for. That's all David Griffin is asking for, which is if he gets hit across the face or the chest or whatever, that's a foul. You gotta call it. And I understand that that is going to mean a lot of free throws. And I understand that that means that fans are going to be frustrated because fans don't want to watch free throws. There is a reason that someone like James Harden, who is elite at drawing fouls, is getting criticized for spending so much time at the free throw line instead of being a guy who just makes shots from the field. Now, is that fair criticism? I don't think so, because if you do get fouled, you do get fouled and you earn those free throws. It's the same situation with Zion. So it just becomes a question of basically getting all your ducks in a row. You have to make sure from an NBA perspective that you are giving guys, every single player in the league, a fair whistle, whether they're 180 pounds or 285 pounds like Zion. It does not matter. The fact that Zion goes to the rim and is trying to score there, that is his right to do. It is the defense job to stop him, yes, but if they foul him, that's a penalty right there, and he needs to take free throws if it's a shooting foul. So I totally understand where David Griffin is coming from here. I don't think this is a situation that's really up for debate. If you watch the game, it's clear as day that a lot of defenders are getting away with a lot of physical contact on Zion. And I just don't mean like bodying him up on the chest, which is legal. I'm saying they whack him. They outright whack him, and very often that call is not received. Now, does that mean that it's that pattern that made him fracture his finger? I don't know about that. I think it's a good way to make the argument and make a good point, but I don't know. I do think overall it could just be one of those situations where it's a guy who takes that much contact over a large period of time, and because of that, he just gets absolutely bruised all over, and that is definitely a valid concern for the New Orleans Pelicans. Finally, an update on the NBA scoring title race, which stands between Stephen Curry of the Golden State Warriors and Bradley Beal of the Washington Wizards. So on Saturday, Beal dropped 50 points against the Indiana Pacers, and Curry, he noticed. So he dropped 49 himself later that night. There is a back and forth between those two just in terms of who is going to win the NBA scoring title. Now, unfortunately, Bradley Beal has been ruled out for the next couple games at the very least with an injury. So right now, Curry has a good chance, if he just stays aggressive, to win it if he just keeps scoring over 31 or 32 points per game. Curry right now is leading the league at 31.9 points per game, and Beal is at 31.4. This is reminiscent to the 1993-1994 NBA season where Shaquille O'Neal and David Robinson were jostling for position for who to win the scoring crown. Robinson, as we all know, in the final game of the regular season, scored 71 points against the Los Angeles Clippers and walked away with the crown. I am not going to say that this is going to be a similar case between Beal and Curry, but I wouldn't hate it. This is fun, right? I kind of love these things. I mean, ultimately, we now live in a basketball society where stats are important, but we're more or less focusing on the advanced metrics, which, don't get me wrong, that is on the one hand, it's super fun. At the same time, it's super educational. That's great. But for us, for just a moment, to look at the raw numbers and look for the scoring crown ideology here, that's fun, right? I kind of want to see two guys just duke it out to win that very, very non-important prize, whatever you want to call it. I want to see it. It's super petty, but it's super fun. I mean, look, at the end of the day, who cares whether it's Curry or Beal who wins it? It doesn't matter. But it's fun. I kind of want to see this pettiness move forward. I hope Beal returns to the court ASAP so he can get in a couple 50 years. That would be great. So let's look out for that. Hopefully we have so much more to come for these two players.